We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Away we go. You can hear me, yeah? All right. So welcome everybody. Let's see, to our Sunday morning here in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. Online, collectively, everywhere, doing what everyone is doing in our living rooms, our pajamas, our coffee, in the car. I love it. Tuning in to inspire and motivate wherever you are on this spiritual path, this sojourn from divine. I'm honored to be of service, to position myself in a form where I'm inviting universal wisdom to explore and understand, and to not understand, and to know and unknow and realize. And yeah, it's going to be a blast. I can't wait to hear what the message is supposed to be. So let's take this moment to welcome each other as if we were in a brick and mortar church, and greet each other on the board and each other's presence while we listen to our opening song. Right. Nice to see where everyone's tuning in from. I'm here in sunny Cape Cod, Massachusetts, near the ocean, in peace. So here at Awakening Together, we have a purpose. And that purpose is that we are an assembly of equals. And we're joined here in common purpose, awakening to the one true self, within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. We also have 5 core values, divinely, beautifully given to guide us. And for my homily today, all 5 are so relevant. But the main focus is I picked something really big to read from a book, and my focus is pointing to that. So number 4 really grabbed me today. Core value number 4: we affirm one true self as the only truth. We live this value by embracing what is helpful on the path of awakening without idolizing any spiritual doctrine as truth. And we also have several announcements. So the first announcement is plan to join us for the Awakening Together Fall Retreat. We are offering 2 parts to the Fall Retreat. And the first is a pilgrimage to sacred and historical sites in New Mexico. The New Mexico pilgrimage will be led by Regina and will begin in La Vida, Colorado on Sunday, September 20th. We will visit sites that have inspired mystics, artists, and natives for ages, including the Taos Pueblo, Abiquiu, the Loretta Chapel, Bandelier National Monument, Cache Catui, and much more. We will end our pilgrimage in La Vida with dinner and a concert with Rebecca Folsom. For those who are attending the second week of the fall retreat, Saturday will offer the opportunity to take a personal day and to rest, to hike, to see local sites, and to explore the lovely little mountain community of La Vida. The second week of the fall retreat will be held at the Retreat House in La Vida, Colorado, in the Keys to the Kingdom, the ultimate guide to freedom retreat. Regina will offer insight and assistance in seeing how the ego tricks you into living from its guidance instead of from spiritual intuition. Partial scholarships are now available for this retreat. For more information on the fall retreat, look on our website on the main menu bar under Retreats and Classes, and then 2020 Fall Retreat and Pilgrimage. Let us pray. So, dear heart, dear infinite, absolute Father of my heart, spark me. I trust you entirely because you know me as we are. Let us create an invitation, set the intention for all wandering minds to experience that which is the same within the many, many, many things we perceive. Let us carve out this moment in time and space to gather all of the loose wires of our attention and hand them over to now. Let us practice the art of listening. Let us throw away our tired ears and listen to before we knew we could hear. Let today's message be the result of honest listening and integrity, to expose the invisible with our limited language, to create a holy encounter. And let these teachings and recent observations be of use to seekers who desire to dissolve the barriers between the known and the unknown. Let this message inspire the linear I who's looking toward the nonlinear reality I prior to thought excelling toward enlightenment. Let this message be a universal experience of a personal event. Use me. Take my self-emptying Megan. Everything she can't remember right. And her love for consciousness to serve the purpose of waking up the ego mind from itself. And to travel through all realms of knowing and not knowing, the crucifying, the searching, the believing, the rebirthing, the seeing, the unseen, the deceived, the clarity, the shifts, the witnessing, to beyonder, to wisdom, to transcend, to make the infinity eight come back around, and to use the illusion to see the miraculous, the cosmic eternal awareness joy. And let today be love. Love for not being satisfied with anything except the quest toward your own heart, wherever you are today. Here it is. So be it. Amen. Okay, so before I hand the mic over to Dawn, who I asked to be my reader, today I described the message as the holy spark of infinite life, because it loosely and accurately describes a moment-to-moment opportunity we all have, like, inherently available to us. You know, as long as we're having the temporal experience of the divine nature, the sparks, the holy sparks. And it's a term inspired by the Kabbalah text. And it describes that these are illuminations inherent in all things. That there is no sphere of existence, including organic or inorganic nature, that is not full of holy sparks, which are mixed in with the husks that need to be separated and lifted up. So I've been incredibly inspired over the years by the teachings of the I Ching and the I Ching, and you know, and had like, I had a rather loose curiosity if I was ever going to pull this 15-year-old I Ching book off the shelves, and it's it has like tape, and it's like falling apart, and it just, I said, Dawn, I have to type this out because I can't send you like a photocopy of it. And well, it practically screamed at me on Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So, you know, I put my projects of, you know, mapping consciousness in the universal stratosphere and what the human mind looks like from whose point of view, I don't know. And went to my old friend and you know, maybe those can be incorporated, who knows. Went to my old friend this book, and so there's a quote in today's reading that needed me to hear it. And today I'm very fond of the vulnerability it's taking me to walk through to teach myself what I need to hear while a bunch of other people listen. And to learn the non-personal and the personal, and just the strange fruit that this whole experience bears, to turn my meditator out for the world to see. And so today I'm lifted and expanded that, like, although awakening is collective, its individuality is hilariously unique in its sameness. And today I'm just like brave to say that, like, all I've wanted to do is live in a world where peace and love and God was not this anonymous feat that put a target on your back to be shot. You know, we just saw in that preview to Lucy, like, you know, having a transcended mind is about drugs and bad guys. And that's honestly, it couldn't be more fitting to my fear, my real, true, underlying fear that I'm supposed to be ashamed of God in this world. So today, you know, I live in a world where we have like little secret meetings for the armies of gods and God's teachers, and you know, my life changed, you know, a month or so ago, and opened up my own new fear-based clarity around God. And you know, I'm called into a world that I want to belong in and create. And so I never really felt this before, and I don't want to change the world, but I want to be in and of one truth with all. Where it's supplied to me, and the earth and health and medicine and God and community and support and expansion, and to live my heart's light of a new earth, and that there's a world where the divine is a part of it, even though it's an illusion. It can appear miraculously. So today the quote stood out to me as I learned to transcend the world that I've been taught to love and fear. The quote is, "We do not try to impress them with the truth of the situation, but depend on truth's penetrating power. As a sage, the task is a balanced irony that holds the presence of both dark and light for others to see." And I've accompanied this with Chapter 5 in The Most Direct Means to Eternal Bliss, awakening the extremely intense desire for liberation. So thank you for that opening that you let me pour out. And Dawn, I'm handing the mic over to you, and I get to sit back and listen for about 15 minutes or so. It's all yours, Dawn. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Meg, for asking me to read for you. I appreciate that. So here we go. And it is a 15-minute reading, so hopefully you can hang in there with me. This is an excerpt from the Philosophy of the I Ching, written by Carol K. Anthony, based on a series of 6 lectures given in Stowe and Lexington, Massachusetts in 1980 and 81. Although there is no philosopher or belief system that can properly produce any systemized explanation of our infinite being, the I Ching, older than the Tao Te Ching, yet complementing one another, can be used as a daily guide that leads us through the process of development, satisfying the innate search for the meaning of existence. Our understanding does not come by way of intellectual study, but through experiences that cause us to penetrate the deepest reaches of our intuitive awareness. What we learn from the I Ching is a substratum of universal truth that underlies all major religions and philosophies of life. As these universal truths emerge in our learning, we understand the relationships that these truths have to philosophies and religions. By contrast to them, however, the I Ching way is to live in an unstructured manner, free of precepts and rules. We're never totally secure. We can never plot what we're going to do more than a few feet ahead. This means we continuously adapt to the conditions as they show themselves. In finding that our abilities are up to the challenges, we develop the courage to take the risks that are always involved in a continuous learning process. Although we have a master, guide, and the sage who speaks through the I Ching, who knows what lies ahead? Throughout the trip, we are only helped to develop our skills. It is we who make the trip, who do the paddling, who take the risk, and who, in the end, become our own masters. The way of the I Ching, in as much as those who follow it find themselves in a spiritual agreement, would appear to be a philosophy because they are aware of their limitations. It would appear to others that they proceed by rules because through their experience they are aware of the channeling embankments and obstructions. It would appear that they are bound by precepts. All these appearances, however, are illusions. They have all traveled the same river. At the beginning of their voyage, they had no fear. Through encountering the risk and the dangers, they became aware of their fear. Gradually, because they developed the skills and learned to trust their guide, they became free of their fear. Together, they laugh at their fears they have overcome. They understand each other without much ado and feel a community of spirit. What they have learned of the river is the extent of their philosophy, which at any moment might be enlarged by a new insight or insights. From the chapter Self-Development, it is part of the greatness of truth that is displayed ironically. The sage, we might say, likes irony. Or we might say that the presence of both dark and light are necessary to sing. Just when we are sure that a happening was disastrous, we begin to find that it has been accompanied by hidden benefits. Indeed, bad luck has only been a disguise for good luck. When we think we have been abandoned and left alone, help has been arising from a new quarter all the while. This is the way of the sage. Understanding and help provide the denouement, truth, which we thought to be grim, is all light and relief. The irony is the message of misunderstanding. We misunderstand the meaning of life and the meaning of death when we think God and fate are hostile. This mistrust of God and fate causes us internal conflict. It's against our nature to rail at God. When we decide that death, as something we do not understand, is a negative thing, we shut ourselves off from any higher understanding of it. When we are in this hostile mood, we return to opposition. Isolated through opposition, one meets a like-minded man with whom one can associate in good faith despite the danger, nobly. This commentary explains that if a person can let go of his mistrust, the dangers of isolation will be overcome. Misunderstandings are caused from misreading the meaning of events. In the I Ching, it refers to truth as having a yellow rather than a white glaring light. Excuse me. Truth is moderate and soft, not harsh and unpleasant. At first, we often tend to overread what is acting from higher truths because of the tendency to see things in their extreme. We do this because our inferiors or our ego are seeing things for us. They are acting as our sentinels, interpreting events according to standards that have nothing to do with the higher truth. The effect of self-development is to moderate the way we see things through dismissing our inferiors and displacing our ego as the interpreters. We take things seriously, but not too seriously. We retain the middle road, as Confucius put it, the mean. We work at our development steadily and patiently rather than with fervor. Although we are conscientious and trying to keep our attitudes correct, we do not despair when we make mistakes. If we slide backwards, we accept the setback and start again from this new place without attaching ourselves to the idea of failure. We are conscientious to have the correct effect on other people. But we also do not attach ourselves to the impressions we make or fail to make on them. We contemplate the past only to recognize and correct our errors, but we don't dwell on them. Rather, we forgive ourselves for our shortcomings. It is enough to be resolved to try to do the correct thing in the future. It is self-flattery to think that life hangs on our remembered mistakes. I love that line. I want to read that again. I've never heard that before. It is self-flattery to think that life hangs on our remembered mistakes. Through self-development, their importance and their bad effects disappear. A second type of action arises spontaneously, out of the correct attitude. This action manifests itself as a response to what is happening. And although we realize we are acting, we do so with such detachment that we feel we are observers rather than doers. The action happens through us rather than by us. We are conduits for what arises in the hidden world. Sometimes this action is very forceful and abrupt, and so different from our normal perseverance and the non-action that it takes us completely by surprise. Moreover, we may even think that what we did was beyond our limits. But in asking the I Ching afterwards, it is confirmed that the action was correct. We are aware that it had the correct effect and was appropriate, and that we could not have planned it. Sometimes the action taken is very quiet, calming action, but again we are detached. Some moments do not come often, but usually happen in difficult situations in which the help of the creative is greatly needed. Such spontaneous action can only occur when we are in a receptive and open state of mind. It may take place after we have been misunderstood and challenged by other people's inferiors and have strictly held to our limits. Suddenly we say or do the correct thing. Steadfastness has aroused the creative power to act through us. The state of mind in which such action can take place is that of emptiness. We have mentally disengaged from any intentions or plans, any feelings of urgency or alienation, or wanting to do or dreading to do anything about the situation at hand. We have also become free of any discouraging feelings of helplessness and have allowed ourselves to be dependent upon the cosmos to let things work out as they will. And arriving at this empty place, the place of no thought, or what Zen calls no mind, we are in tune with the creative. The amount of self-doubt we learn in growing up determines what extent our inferiors may undermine and overthrow our superior aspects of character. By the time we encounter the I Ching, many of our inferiors will have become powerful as habits of mind and as programmed reactions to circumstances. The lines of the I Ching address these program responses and the pacts we have made with ourselves to do or not to do things in given situations. These pacts operate as defenses against the unknown and arise from the mistrust of the creative and the fear that it will not be there to help us when we need it. When the inferiors are hardened under the leadership of the ego self-image as an organized response to things, the I Ching begins to refer to them as the inferior man, the ringleader of disorder, the commander of darkness. These organized responses come from fixed sets of defenses, such as those that occur when pride, on being injured, hardens into vanity. The inferior man, then, is the accumulated and fixed image of ourself with its train of rights and privileges. In any given situation, we already know how a person will behave because of his set responses. The superior man, too, is firm in all his overall principles, but the firmness comes not from externally added beliefs, which are the product of negative experiences, but from the inner awareness of the center of himself and his willingness, and his unwillingness to depart from the center. The images that create the inferior man are drawn from the wish to defend oneself against failure because they rest on childhood fears. It can only be overcome by a most resolute and determined attitude to be free of them, once we have recognized them as false and destructive. This determination is required because the ego, as a defense mechanism, resists any attempt to displace it. This is to say, it defends its own existence as well as it defends the hiding place of our fears. The superior man that remains when we have shed the inferior man appears to be defenseless, but because he clings to the power of truth and depends upon the higher forces, he is defended. Because he is free of the dark power, the light power is able to come to his aid. This dependence does not mean that he has faith or presumes upon his luck, that he is resolute against doubt. Through resoluteness, his attitude remains neutral and receptive as he accepts things as they come. Through making the effort to free ourselves from these resistant and destructive aspects of our nature, we come to know evil. We understand how powerful the dark force is and are able to be compassionate with the mistakes of others. The entire business of the I Ching is to reaffirm our knowledge of God as the higher power, not only as a vague intuitive knowledge, but as a conscious, practical, intimate, everyday knowledge. This means that we materialize the reality of God out of the mist of our unconsciousness into the full reality of consciousness. We may know intuitively that someone we love is unfaithful to us. But when this knowledge surfaces by evidence into consciousness, it produces such a shock that it is hard to understand the difference between these two sorts of knowing. We may know someone is dying of cancer for a long time, but the fact of the death produces an unexpectedly strong emotional response. How do we explain this? When the ego leads our personality, the conscious mind just believes what we intuitively know. Moreover, the ego insists that conscious reality is the only reality. In this case, it does not want to believe that death exists. When death, the objective fact, happens, conscious mind is unprepared, and the ego disappears in the ensuing shock. One's knowledge of God is similar. In the beginning of self-development, we know about God intuitively and theoretically. We may have occasionally experienced a higher power, but afterwards, we have rationalized experience as some quirk of our imagination. Soon, it seems it never happened at all. Our intuition of God, through this process, has become damned. Through self-development, however, we have come to experience the reality of God as an everyday fact of life. We experience God directly, not only in small ways, but in big ways, so that even the smallest errors of perception are swept away. This daily relating to the higher power gradually erases every particle of doubt. Eradicating doubt in its least visible forms and its most germinal inception is our daily work. We cannot elevate ourselves over doubt by deciding to have faith, whereby doubt is really still there. To get around our half-believing, half-doubting state that comes from experiencing God sporadically, we may consciously decide to believe in God without dealing with the residual elements of doubt, which we carry in our everyday attitudes. By deciding to have faith, we simply cover up these doubts. I'm going to read that again. By deciding to have faith, we simply cover up these doubts. Then we defend our faith from the intuitive awareness that we have not yet conquered our doubts. Ooh, wow, that's pretty amazing. Faith and this manifestation as another trick played upon us by our ego, and another defense against the unknown. Only by the most determined search can we find and eradicate all doubt within ourselves. Meanwhile, we are helped in our effort by God as the unknown, invisible, unnameable, but viable, constantly felt force. Our new state is not faith or belief, or doubt or disbelief, but a beyond the rational awareness. A wise person is content to be a seeker, never forgetting that everything he earns through perseverance and devotion is nevertheless a gift. It is the result of coming to meet halfway. The wealth of wisdom is available to all who come. Not infrequently we hear children and uneducated people say wise things. Innocent and honest hearts are a ready conduit for the profound. If we are attuned to it, the sage speaks to us in 1,000 ways. And that's the end of the reading. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for reading to us, Dawn. Reading to me, reading the message that I needed to hear again, and being inspired by it. I just pulled up something on my screen, which really illustrates the process for me of, the principles, the four principles of God that we learn here, mixed in with how duality is always coming along with us the entire time. So I'll just use this little drawly thing. So, starting out on the spiritual path, like down here, I'm just learning how to discern. This whole reading today was just how we're constantly in this discernment. And in the beginning, it's just like, it's heavy and hard, and you're just like, Holy Spirit, are you even there to talk to me? I'm supposed to be hearing something, and so, I began there. I was completely unhealed and climbing up to the surface of absolute, like, save me. And then I move up, and I still have this discernment process going on, of course, but I move from, I am definitely a child of God, but I don't feel like I'm a child of God, so I'm still holding those. Then I move into this experience where, oh, I'm starting to feel some presence here. And it's still just pulling me up. And then it's like, I have knowledge of the spiritual juicy stuff over here that's talking about here, right? And then when I forget, I'm in the ignorance of that knowledge, but it's an elevated duality, yeah? And then, we keep elevating. We're getting glimpses into this absolute, I know I'm up here, but sometimes I'm down here again. And this has been, the many faces of my spiritual journey. Is like, yes, and like, no. All of it, which is no different than who I was kind of before I knew how to discern. It was highs and lows. But now I know there's middle way in my highs and lows, yeah? So then we advance, and then the duality is like an awakened duality. I have this awakened duality where I'm holding both light and dark, and I'm still sort of kind of getting ticked off at the fact that I'm still dual. But it's not to be misunderstood by, because I'm still holding this to look at this, yeah? And then meditation takes me up here where I self-forget as much as possible. I forget this stuff. So, and Richard Rohr, he's an amazing inspiration to me lately. He has this book called Falling Upward. We're falling upward, we're taking that descent down into the illusion of heaven and hell, because creation created the option for heaven and hell. Like, heaven isn't absolute. Heaven and hell exist here in this miraculous fourth principle of God, where, if I'm in fear and suffering, the fourth principle of God is just going to be like, ugh, and I can't even see the first principle of God, and it creates this constant shell, this constant surrounding around my duality that you gotta almost laser focus, bend the spoon with your mind to get out of it, or rest. Your body relaxes, accept, trust. We have trained our minds to break these habits of duality. And so I'll stop sharing that. That was kind of, I'm inspired to, that video of Lucy could not more perfectly describe the fast pace of how clarity comes through when you're saying, truth, show me everything you got, and it's exciting and it's invigorating, and I'm detached from the illusions, but dear God, thank you for showing me how illuminated they are when I look at them. And, I don't want to tell you the truth about situations, but boy, it penetrated me, and I saw, so, and, this works, this path undoes us, and it gently works. There is this moment, however, and Morgan Freeman actually says it, when he's teaching and lecturing about the capacity of our brains, that once you hit 20% of opening up the cerebral availability of receivership, there's a gravitational pull that will just take you over. I believe Bernadette Roberts even talks about that. It's just the gravity, instead of being weighted to earth, we've activated and flipped around the gravitational pull in a different direction. And, you know, that's just the best way I can describe the happening of waking up. And then also the fact that the rules that I learned, I can't even tell you that I'm throwing them away. They're getting thrown away because I'm in this, I'm in this beyond rational awareness of just seeing what I need to see. And it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. So let's see, what else did I say? I highlighted so many wonderful things that you read, you know, along the way. Let's see. We are conduits for what arises in the hidden world. And sometimes this action is very forceful and abrupt and so different from our normal perseverance of non-action. And it takes us completely by surprise. And, you know, this means that we materialize the reality of God out of the midst of the unconscious into the full reality of consciousness. And this is how the infinity happens for me. It's just, I have withdrawn in a conscious, useful way from the world because I'm not supposed to believe in it. However, when it's clarity, you come back into the world as a useful servant. And then all of the illusions appear to you and you kind of get to play with them. And that's what I'm opening up to, is like the empowerment of powerlessness that is starting to happen. And yeah, let's see. So, you know, in some ways I would just be super comfortable coming up to you guys and being like, Ramana, he had it right, Nisargadatta, the one line in the Course, you know, find out, who am I? I am, the I am before the I am, or be still and know that I'm God. And just repeat that every day, all the time, forever. Bye. You know, that would be the most direct thing that I could ever give to anybody, but that's not what our minds are handling or asked to handle. You know, we're all here making this consensus to gently awaken and to use the tools of sharing and discussing and imploding and exploring and vacillating between the extreme certainty and the extreme doubt, like, am I Paul or am I Saul? Am I Paul or am I Saul? You know, like, I got hit, but oh, wait a minute. Nope, the women, they have to go sit in the back of the church. You know, that was Saul. And then Paul, you know, he knew God. And then he only spoke from that. So we're talking about, you know, we're gathered here and talking about going through and going through and going through. And I never want to get stuck. So I increase the intensity, you know, the navigation in the dungeons. And the singleness of purpose becomes really bright. So the intense desire for liberation in Michael Langford, he says that, you know, there's two choices. You know, you choose to end the ego by dropping all unnecessary activities and create the maximum amount of time every day to practice the most direct means to eternal bliss. And perfect joy, true self forever, eternal life. Just drill. You drill it in. That's it. That's it. That's it. Choice B, however, is still being identified with suffering and death and the ego and what we, you know, heard from Dawn. It's just like, I saw God and now I'm back. I saw God and now I'm back. And just making that choice over and over and over again, because choice B is, you know, allowing the imposter, I call ego, to pretend to be myself for a little bit. You know, that death still exists, da, da, da. And there's instructions in here. It says, you can write on that list thousands of wars and thousands of diseases and forms of violence and all the ways that humans deceive, hurt, cheat, and any other form of human suffering that you can think of. Usually humans look at only a small part of the ocean of human suffering, but the purpose of this list is to is to look at the entire ocean of human suffering and the entire negative side of life in a single glance. What? So he says, you only need to read it once. And, I did this in my fourth step in recovery. And I looked at my world and my fears and all of that. But, I don't know about you, but I'm still here. I'm on my couch. I have a computer. I have finance, war, and religion still surrounding me, and I create this tiny little universe of my absolute paradise. So why was I born into a world where I don't fit in? I'm giving you my inquiry of what happened to me, 4 weeks ago, where this total new world of fear gave me this opportunity to look through it again, to look through the fear that was still hidden again. So am I able to help create a new world by not believing in the one that was handed to me? Why do my instructions in all of these spiritual texts say, there's no world and I'm not to change it, but if I change myself, I heal the world. So when can I play in it? When can I play in this world? I have this temporal, time-based breath of oxygen bearing its excellence into my cells. And the paradox is supposed to be embraced, not followed. But why is this world so untrue and unreal? And why is the happiness of God's love the reason people are still killed? Why do I still see that? When I was 13, the kids started shooting other kids in schools. The headline for months was, "Classmates watch as the shooter asked Casey Burnell if she believed in God. She responded yes, and then he killed her." I cried and I wrote poetry and I read it in front of my class about the golden rule, and I was made fun of it. And then when I was 14, the 40-year-old man spent 3 months exploiting darkness of what power meant in front of me. And then when I was 14, I hit my head, snapped my neck, and left my body. And then I found out that I knew that this wasn't just it, and I was lying there. I left my body. I didn't want to come back. And this doctor kept saying, Lillian, come back. Can you hear us? And that was my dead grandmother's name. And the doctor thought it was mine. And my mom told me this story. And, and I could faintly hear when this decision was like, stay or go. And everything depressed me after this. Oh my God. How could I get back there? I was 15 and they blew up the towers. I started making a book the next day with all of the newspaper articles about everything I could find. And I wrote a letter to my future children and myself about where I was. Why? Because when I was in 7th grade in history, they said, write a paper about what our parents were doing in life when they shot Kennedy. So I'm just prepared to tell my kids about all the evil in the world and how it's really scary to believe in God. When do reports talk about how the earth laughs and flowers? But I recovered. I'm in this incredible journey of seeing love all the way through, properly leaving this body, loving death and fear. Bad people are just my mind's projections of an inverted vision of goodness, and it's incredible. Through awakening, like my earth, my tiny little universe, my bubble of inclusive escapism, enlightened duality, it's become my paradise where I don't hardly, if ever, see the 8 trillion different forms of violence. I haven't for years in this. My fear in my mind and my brain, my ego, pop, pop, pop. I don't believe my stories because I trained the habits to not tell me those things. But unless you've completely transcended, the world I thought wasn't touching me just told me what to do again. And what a brilliant opportunity to see what was hidden that I didn't have access to before. Everything opened up to me in 2015. I had an intuitive vision, lucky me, given to me, which allowed me to transcend any dualistic controversy that would be in my world living here. You know, everything that was going on, it was given to me to trust the flow and the presence. Everyone was arguing around me. It never touched me because I knew the direction of the river of life, and it was here. And I chose to live here because God gave me that to see through the both sides. And then, you know, God showed me how to keep transcending the levels of ego. You know, the inferior man and the superior man in what we were just reading from Dawn was like, you know, the discernment of true self and little self. And so, you know, I'm still choosing to see through the world, like wars, finance, religion, world, bam, they're beautiful. I never needed opinions to be hurt or offended because God put his children out ahead of the suffering. I'm untouchable. I'm invisible. I create the world I see. Yet I had not fit in, but I carved out a miracle for myself. So when 8 billion people decided to experience the same illusion at the same time, God continued to allow me to transcend the power and the control and the corruption and to see through whatever I needed to see through to expand my own reality. You know, and now after years of being guided to be out ahead of the drama, I'm in this restful, peaceful calm. And it's not about the truth of the situation. It's about truth's penetrating power, because in that diagram that I showed you, it was like a vibration between the light and the dark, the light and the dark. And for 4 weeks, I literally did not sleep or eat. And I was so in love with truth coming through me, for me to go through and beyond, you know, and the catalyst for the darkness and bringing my light back. And I didn't avoid the illusion to be a part of it, but I wanted to include all to transcend it and the stories that they tell, you know, and this is just my medicine from God, you know, I can't give this to anyone else. So I do have some clearly more stuff that I could keep going on about, although we're running out of time, but you know, I've been gifted the true discernment of my own intuitive path to light the way and to love myself through the intense desire to stay liberated. And I activated these instructions. I activated them. And the intensity in which darkness used to pull me down and say, oh, I know you saw God, but listen to me, fear. You know, I am fear, and I will tell you how to protect yourself. That is what fear always tells me. So I'm joining all my friends around the world right now who are collectively armoring themselves up with God's grace to dethrone decades and eons of evil, to keep, you know, all these keep God out, you know. And, you know, I never pull my age card out. It never meant a damn thing to me. But I didn't want to live in this world. And you know, I met Billy and he pulled me out. So many people pulled me out and said, no, live, you're a child of God. And I just want to like be proud and not anonymous. And like, I still have such a long life to live, and it can't be this same way, right? So the journey of this inward atonement to heal myself, which is also my brother's, and you know, it's found with my eyes wide open. You know, I'm finding this beautiful world in meditation, in eyes closed, and I live in this dark, beautiful place where I can't share it with anyone. I hardly have any friends because I'm just in the bliss of meditation, and it's like, when do I get to play? So I first started praying. I said, dear God, you are a distant knowing of a future feeling of something I've always had, and I need you. And now God is me. We did it. We did what it said it would do. I am. Before Abraham, I am. And And I'm very honest when I come back into duality, because it doesn't scare me. And I spoke of a reality I wanted to see, and I spoke it until I saw it in front of me. The dream is beyond and of myself. And harmony and peace and optimism. I'm a bird. I'm a flower. I'm a dark night of the soul. I'm the water that I can never hold. You know, I found you, I found me, and I was really blind, and now I see. And in all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all order, a secret order, because those who leave everything in God's hands will eventually see God's hand in everything. You know, man suffers only because he takes seriously what God's made for fun. And today, when I wear my love like heaven, I'm no longer afraid to walk with it. So, thanks for letting me break the rules, go over the time, be eccentric, be love. I'm going to play a song. And just remember, we are an assembly of equals, member supported. We survive by your donations. So if you feel called to donate, Dawn will post a link on the board, and it's awakening-together.org/donate. And I will play a song and hand everything over to God, I guess. Who else? All right, happy Sunday, everyone. And Dawn, I'm handing it over to you, and fellowship's going to start after this. So, namaste.
Thank you for watching. This was our weekly gathering that we hold online. For more information, you can visit our website at awakening-together.org, or you can subscribe to our Awakening Together channel and click the bell for more notifications when we post our weekly gatherings. Thank you again for watching.